Our region's business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you. Our region's business, improving our economy, creating jobs, and strengthening communities. Innovation, collaboration, transformation, and the people making it happen. Join us as we take a closer look at our region's business. Now, here's your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, honoring our region's best and brightest, from an emerging leader among women to the everyday champions who keep us safe and even keep us healthy. But first, the University of Pittsburgh's recent success in unlocking innovation and getting it to market. Pitt's Innovation Institute has reported its highest ever number of startups, patents, and invention disclosures. Patents awarded are up almost 28% from a year ago to 102. And that's double the number issued in 2013, the year that Pitt established its Innovation Institute. So what's the secret behind the sudden surge? Well, Evan Facher is here with the answer. He's Senior Director of Innovation Commercialization, and welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, congratulations. These are impressive numbers.
Thank you very much. It's been a work in progress for a number of years, specifically over the last 3 with the establishment of the Innovation Institute.
And what did that entail? What is it exactly that an Innovation Institute does, at least at Pitt?
Sure. So the idea about 3.5 years ago was to put together under one umbrella an organization that served as the central hub of commercialization activities across the university, whether it be things developed on campus by faculty, staff, or students, or also helping early stage businesses in the region grow and be successful in the tech space and in the non-tech space. So the idea was, how do you put all these pieces together under one common leadership and ignite whatever is happening on campus?
And that began to make a difference, I would assume. Took a couple of years to put it all together and
Yes.
actually begin to unlock that potential.
It was interesting. In the very first year, so everything was founded in November 2013. Our first full year after that, we hit records across all of those numbers that you mentioned. Basically, every year we've broken the university record year after year after year. So if we look at startups, for example, the year before we put the Innovation Institute together, we only had 6 startups from university technology. The first year after the Innovation Institute, we had 11. The next year we had 13, and this year we had 15. So the trend across all those numbers you mentioned have gone up and up and up since the Innovation Institute was put together.
Given Pitt's strengths in healthcare and medicine, how many of these deals or these innovations and these new companies involve life sciences?
About 70% of our technologies on campus are life sciences related things that come through our doors.
Okay, so that would make a lot of sense. Clearly, all this potential was always there. I mean, Pitt's been doing incredible, world-changing work for decades, but I guess finding the secret to unlock that has really been what's happened.
Yes, I think there was probably a couple things. One was the decision to have a focus on the commercialization of research developed on campus. Prior to that, it was something that we did, but it wasn't necessarily something that was a core piece of the DNA or a core piece of the culture. The other piece was when Chancellor Gallagher came on board. He specifically instilled that belief, let folks know that commercialization of research is something that we need to be doing. And you had this huge amount of pent-up demand that all of a sudden got unlocked because of people being told it was okay to think about commercializing research. It wasn't a bad thing to do. It was something that we need to do if we want to have those innovations benefit society. It has to go through some kind of commercialization process. So if it sits in the laboratory, sits on the shelf, it's never going to help a patient or help a person. So how do we get those things through to partners that can bring them to market?
When you talk about partners, how much of this is about starting new businesses? How much is it about just getting it, commercializing whatever the innovation is?
So our goal is to get as many of these things out the door as possible.
Okay.
If it's going to be to an existing company, great. If it's going to be to a new company, great. We have the number of licenses that we did last year was 146 licenses, the 3rd most the university's ever done. And we started 15 companies. So most of those licenses or most of those transactions are with existing companies versus brand new companies. To get a brand new company out the door, as you know, is a significant amount of work. So even though it's 15, some of those that finally got out of the university we were working on for years beforehand.
Well, and the life sciences space is challenging, especially because you've got trials, you've got all the government regulation and everything else. And then there's the whole issue of capital. How's that going for you?
So things are actually getting better. When we start to demonstrate the technology and start to talk about it not as a cool technology, but here's an opportunity, a business opportunity. Here's a value proposition. This is the path to market. This is the customer that we're addressing. Now you're selling a business opportunity, or you're trying to work on with a partner on a business opportunity, not trying to push a technology. You're trying to have a pull of an interesting opportunity. So as we start to flip the model that we've been using, that has also helped attract investors from outside the region, entrepreneurs from outside the region, corporations from outside the region that may not know the capabilities that the University of Pittsburgh has.
Now, you're a Pitt PhD, but you've spent a lot of time in private industry. Does that give you, does it really help you then to make these connections? Yes. and do this sale?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to sit on the other side of the table, both at a small company side and a large company side. So you start to understand what a potential partner is looking for, either a venture partner or an investor partner or a strategic kind of corporate partner. And what they're looking for is a risk-reduced opportunity, and an opportunity that clearly addresses a market pain point that they're looking for. They're certainly looking for interesting technologies, but a technology for technology's sake doesn't help them. It has to be a technology that addresses a pain that they have. And that's the learnings that we're bringing in when we work with faculty, staff, and student. It's very much customer-centric. It's customer discovery. How do we have conversations with the market and understand what they need, and see how does what we've created address that need, and if it doesn't, how do we pivot it to make sure it does? Because it makes that transaction easier if we're giving something to somebody that actually wants what it is that we have.
That's got to be a challenge sometime, because I'm sure with most of these researchers, it's their baby. You're talking about their baby, and you got to maybe change the way you talk about it, or pivot it, or whatever else to get some. Is that a hurdle to be gotten over?
It is,
sometimes?
and what we do is we bring them. A lot of our programs are immersive in nature. So the PI and maybe the graduate student or the student that's been involved with that work comes into our workshops, comes into our programming, and we facilitate them doing a lot of that customer discovery work. So it's not us having to tell them, pivot here or make this thing that looks red look blue. They're hearing it from physicians, from payers, from corporate partners, from investor partners. So it's the marketplace telling them, and by having those other third parties let them know what this needs to look like, having that conversation is a lot easier, because it's validated by somebody
Makes a lot of sense. Only a few seconds left. Where do you go from here? How's the pipeline looking? Do you expect more better reports in the future?
Yes. So we've spent a lot of time developing these programs. We've started focusing on faculty. We've moved things into students. We've now, over last year, we moved some of these programming into the community, working with early stage companies in the community. So our role is how do we continue to grow this? How do we continue to get more people involved? We've got on campus 5,000 faculty, 10,000 graduate students, 20,000 undergraduates, and we haven't penetrated the vast majority of those. So even if we just use the current folks that we have as potential customers, those numbers are going to continue to increase.
Really exciting stuff. Well, congratulations, Evan Facher, and everybody at the Innovation Institute. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Next up, we'll meet one of our region's rising stars and find out how she's enabling innovation in our region. The recipient of the Barbara McNee Spirit of Athena Scholarship. Stay with us.